In this week's episode, we discuss the astrological transits of the winter solstice, Saturn square Uranus, and Venus retrograde conjunct Pluto. I will tell you that Sandy's conflict day is coming up this week, and there is a lot to learn about what is going on. So to hear more of this week's transits, tune into this episode of Astrological Intentions. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Astrological Intentions. I'm your host, Alex Reevy, along with the Venusian Venus herself, Sandy Reevy.
Hi, everybody. How you doing?
It is episode 178, December 20th. Let's get right into it. In the transits, we have today Mercury trine Uranus.
Aha moments.
And Tuesday, December 21st, Sun ingress Capricorn.
Winter solstice, everyone.
Sandy's conflict day, Friday, December 24th, Saturn square Uranus.
Third and final stressor.
And Saturday, December 25th, Merry Christmas, and Venus retrograde conjunct Pluto.
Deepened love.
And Sunday, December 26th, Mercury sextile Neptune.
Reminiscing.
And then in Talisman time, Sandy has finished up 3 to gain the finances needed to attract abundance to me and to engage and agree with authority figures. Then there are no upcoming. And on the horizon, we have our holiday sale, our many options to download and watch, our holiday trunk show, astrology webinar, and our 2022 astrology forecast for the year. And an upcoming on January 15th Talisman ceremony for the Venus rising. Then in our house, Sandy and I are going to discuss the Venus retrograde and the story of Inanna. So stay tuned for this episode of Astrological Intentions.
And so you finally know you control where you go.
Hello, Venusian Venus.
Well, I know why you're saying that because I have a very strong Venus in Taurus at the top of my chart, which is really reflective of my career and what I am known for. And these are my beautiful art.
And in its own sign of Taurus.
In Taurus. And making beautiful art pieces that have purpose from an earth element.
Right.
Clay.
And also, more recently, you've been delving a whole lot deeper into Venus, her cycles, what that means, her star points. I mean, it's kind of this all-encompassing learning process that you've been going through over the last couple of years. And you're now getting to a place where you're going to be teaching it for the retreat.
Right. And I'm working with Ariel Gutman to be a practitioner of her Venus star point. So that's pretty cool. There is about 20 of us around the world.
Yep. That's really awesome.
Really cool. So I've got to pass quite a bit of hurdles along the way to get my certification, but I'm almost there.
Woohoo.
And then once I get that certification, I'll be doing multiple teaching programs throughout 2022 around Venus star points and around families and around who is your helping hand and who is your karmic star versus your more or who is your twin star. Interesting information.
So I want to go
on that later.
Yes. And I want to go direct to all of our listeners. We are so grateful to share your day with you throughout this podcast. And we received an email, a 5-star review from Angela B. She says, I couldn't help it. I just purchased 2 more orbit necklaces for my dear friends for Christmas. I'm really drawn to these and they are absolutely beautiful. I am hopeful I can do a reading with Sandy soon one day. I've never had one before. Merry Christmas and thank you for making such beautiful recordings of life and love. Yeah.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you. Yes, you picked great ones. You picked super ones that are very meaningful. I mean, they're all very meaningful, but some are deeper than others.
Yes. And don't forget, everybody, all of the orbit necklaces on our website are 20% off automatically throughout the month of December. So we're all the way 3/4 of the way done with this month. So make sure you head over to the website and see if there are any presents that you can gift someone. And it doesn't have to be just for Christmas. It could be for the new year. This is a really wonderful time to set intentions, to really be present and aware with yourself on what it is that you want to create. You know, it's a great time. So let's move into the transits. Today, Monday, December 20th, Mercury trine Uranus.
Yeah, this happens at a little after 2:00 in the afternoon. And this is aha moments. You know, write them down. They show up quickly and suddenly. And so by writing them down, what you understood in that moment, you don't have to make sense of it, just what is coming in, like flowing through your mind, down your arm, into your hands to write it. You will and may leave the door open for pondering and considering what more could open up for you by these aha moments. It's like the Mercury here. Mercury is, the planet of communication, thoughts, mental process, mental agility, and it's trining. It's in a really nice harmonious aspect to Uranus that really wants to bring in new ideas, maybe through technology. Because technology is a key word with this Uranus and using information that's coming through a frequency. So I really like this day.
Yeah, brilliant.
So we start we start the week off
brilliantly.
Well.
So Tuesday, December 21st, Sun ingress Capricorn. Happy birthday to all you Capricorns out there.
And this is at 9:59 a.m. So this is, in the morning, and this is the winter solstice. So we have to recognize that this is the first day of winter and the first day of Capricorn, where the sun stands still. Solstice. Sun stands still. And the light begins to return to the to the northern hemisphere. That's what happens when you put them together. So it's like looking back since we've had the summer solstice, when the dark started coming in, or when we started going into where the sun is starting to move closer to an equinox, and then she's making her way to the dark. And now, when I say she, I really meant he, the sun. And now the sun is starting to make his way to the light.
Right.
So
in the summer solstice, we go from the longest day, and then in the winter solstice we go to the shortest day. So and it's all how you look at it, really, because you could be like, oh yeah, the summer solstice is now we're going to be getting darker, but also it's the lightest day of the year. And then the winter solstice, the darkest day of the year, however the light is returning. So there's always different ways to look at it.
Yeah, and we get to set our sights on that light returning. So
right, and the growth. Yeah.
And it's really interesting because, we enter this week with Venus retrograde. If we started, we always start on a Monday, but I have to remind everyone that on Sunday, the day before here, Sunday, the 19th of December, that Venus at like 3:00 in the morning, Venus went retrograde. So she stays retrograde for 40 days and comes out of it the end of January. I think it's the 28th. So she's in her retrograde cycle. I want to talk about that in our house to make sure that everyone understands the significance of going into back to your raw form, and allowing it, welcoming it, and permitting it, and enjoying that, basking in the heat of what needs to be relieved, released, burned off. So we'll talk more about that. But we're all in the process. Right. Every single one of our souls here on this planet.
So also the next transit that we want to discuss is actually your conflict day, and that's Christmas Eve, Friday, December 24th, Saturn square Uranus. Tell us about it.
This happens at 1:17 in the morning, and this is the third and final final stressor. And a stressor, because it's square, so they're coming at from a 90-degree angle.
Right.
And it's Saturn, the planet of
Tradition.
delay, tradition, conservative, and structure and establishment, and what we've known of rules and regulations and policies and procedures. And there's always a handbook wherever job you go to, and this is how we do it. This is how we do it, right? And it's squaring. It's coming into this stress mark. We've had it all year. This has been the number one aspect that all astrologers have been watching all year that started in February. So we had the first pass in February. I think we had the second one in July. And now here is the final pass. Now, it's the final connection at a partile where their exact degree and exact
minute,
solar arc minute. We don't get this in 2022, but we get super close. And when I say super close, within a degree, within a 60-minute arc, but we don't get to the exact.
And with Uranus squaring, it's like Uranus is the change maker, the one to create a little bit of chaos in order to restructure types of things. And of course, these two are at ends with one another, and maybe they're at a holiday party together, and Saturn and Uranus are turning the corner of a room and bump into each other, and they're like, uh-oh, you know, like we now have to look at each other and make amends, figure stuff out, you know, or somehow come to an agreement
if we can. Right. And because the Uranus person who bumped in is going to say, you know, excuse me, you know, I didn't you see me? I've been standing here. I've got my mark on it. And the Saturn is looking like, no, I always stand here. Don't you remember? And it's like, well, this is my space too. This is my home, you know, and it's kind of like they're having a little argument because Uranus is that freedom seeker. He is the planet that wants to change the system. And Saturn is the system.
Right.
So who's going to give here? And, you know, what I wrote about this is, you know, do we see what has changed over this year or what was trying to change over this year? Can we begin to settle the differences? And can we work? Can we live, love, laugh? Can we do this together? You know, we have to see. You know, can we? Can we agree? Can Saturn agree that, you know, change is imminent and we need to build the structure around change? That would be a great way for this conflict to come into a compromise. But, you know, I agree. You know, we have had our time at this. So what can we agree on? It's like, what can we make space? What can we make room for a restructuring? You know, kind of like, I doubt that there's going to be an apology at like, you know, excuse me, come on through. You know, I'll pull down the walls and move through. And I mentioned that these planets get to within 1 degree in October of 2022. So this is 10 months from here when they get really close. And it's going to remind us of this agreement or possible coming together that we almost made it. And that's where we say, let's get loud.
Okay.
Right? I love that song. Let's get loud. Can you sing for us?
No.
Oh.
So Saturday, December 20th.
But I want to stay here for a second.
Okay.
Okay. Because, you know, I do watch the news. I've been watching in the news for something like this. We will definitely see this in the news. Will we see it on Friday the 24th? Well, maybe if we're watching the news, but, you know, you may be in the depths of your family Christmas gathering or wrapping or unwrapping or cooking or eating or cleaning up. You know, you might be in this too. So really, really watch your P's and Q's on your reaction to getting into family gatherings. And, you know I have a personal connection to this as well, that, you know, the 24th and the 25th for people may not go as you have it planned. Right? Because Uranus is coming up and going, I've always done that. We've always done it that way. We always start dinner at 6 and then we open up these gifts and like, nope, we're not doing it this way this year. Or watch for the Uranus to be really strong here to change up plans.
Yeah.
Right. So things that you thought you can always count on. Nope. Somebody's not coming. Somebody's not going.
Well, I mean, and for me, I don't know, it's at the top of my mind is kind of like COVID cases. And I think that that's going to change a lot of people's plans.
Gatherings.
Yeah, gatherings.
So don't be surprised if you do have to make a bold change and to go to what you weren't planning on going to, or not go to something that you were planning on going to, or to have a different attitude. But I have to also remind you, if you're going to do that, do it with compassion, do it with care and concern. And the fact that Venus is retrograde, she is finding her way around in the dark as she descends from the evening sky. And it isn't all about you, but it is your words that could be full of love and care while you're saying what you need to. Now, these will be the people that know about this week of the Venus retrograde, along with this big final stressor of the year where it just wants to pop off, right? Can I mention one or two things that I heard on the news this morning?
Sure.
Which I normally don't share here. But because this is the final, I think this is between this podcast this week and next week's podcast, I think I'm going to pay serious attention to the news to see where we're seeing this in the world. Because this is in the world for everyone.
Right.
And, I did just read this morning that the Senator Joe Manchin, who is the Democrat from West Virginia, and I'm quoting from the Wall Street Journal, said he won't support his party's Build Back Better plan, a decision that could doom President Biden's top domestic policy priority. And he said that this is a, quote, no on this legislation, that he has tried everything. And he really has supposedly tried to work things out, and it's his vote that would push this
that makes
through.
It break.
And he's now saying he's had a sudden change of consideration, like overnight. And sure enough, it's here as we get into this week.
Yeah,
Again,
interesting.
Sudden change of direction plan.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're discussing here is those decisions that you don't really expect to happen.
So again, here we go with that Saturn squaring Uranus. So it's going to build bigger and more pronounced as the week continues. So be on your P's and Q's and stand up for what you need to if it's important to you. If it's not, walk out of the room. Be different and leave the premises, right? Instead of starting this ongoing fight that may have been happening all year with family, friends, and loved ones. Because Venus is now stripping her garments and getting real raw.
Right.
So do what you think is best here on the 24th and 25th. Anyway. So Merry Christmas, right? I don't want to bring in a worry or doom on this day, but it is happening on a family orientation celebratory day.
And so Saturday, December 25th, Merry Christmas, everybody. Venus retrograde conjunct Pluto.
So this is the second pass. She just passed Pluto last week, stopped on Pluto. So this is almost, to me, when I get to the story, when we get into our house, and I talk about Venus's journey into the underworld, where she is not seen, the beautiful goddess of, symmetrical beauty is going bye-bye. Okay, I know you're not 5 years old anymore. But this happens at 25 degrees of Capricorn, and this happens, boom, right away as she starts moving backward. She hits this 25 Capricorn placement in where Pluto's sitting. And then she doesn't meet Pluto again until March 2nd or 3rd, after she's done with this whole period and she's finishing up her shadow period. So Deepen Love, promises to allow us to penetrate what is down below and under surfaces. Prepare to find out new discoveries. It's time to see the truth. And guess what? You just may like it. You may be remembered on something that you once owned that was so important to you. It reminds me of the story that you just told me with a cousin.
Oh, going through old photos and kind of reigniting those, looking back and seeing historically like what we looked like, what we were doing, what life was like, and, seeing that going through this global pandemic has definitely changed us, but knowing that whatever we can do to sustain the light internally, the health internally, is a valiant and necessary job that we need to do. So, that was...
It was interesting, right? Would you have put that together when you were telling me that story this morning? That this is the Venus retrograde period of
right.
Like, I used to be like that. I used to look like that.
I want that again.
I kind of was, the comment was like, I was kind of hot.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you're still that same person, just with actually more wisdom, with age. But
and experience, yeah.
But the habits might have gotten in the way. These are the time to burn them off.
Yes. So definitely looking forward to that. I think, setting intentions on Christmas and what that vision is going to be ahead is going to be exciting. So let's move on to Sunday, December 26th, the end of our week, Mercury sextile Neptune.
Yeah, this is reminiscing. Here's Mercury, chitty-chatty, wanting to talk a lot, having serious conversation. And he's making the sextile to Neptune. Sextile says, take the opportunity. It's easy. It's provided for. The air is in a nice environmental. It's easy to connect to Neptune about, gathering around the campfire or a pond or a table. Time for telling stories. And they don't need to be completely true, just has to be a good storyline, which then may inspire more chatter on what is real. Do you know what I mean? Like I can just picture, talking about, oh my gosh, I remember when I was 7 and you were 6, and because we're going to be around family a lot. It's like, I remember when I was about 7 years old and we got that dog, and I forget the dog's name, because we didn't have it long because we had to let it go. But I remember you walking it once and it got off the leash, and when you had to come home and tell mom the dog was missing, and then the person would say, no, you were holding the leash. The dog got away from you. And how the story is kind of concocted from two different perspectives.
Right.
But what it does is brings the story into the reality of like, you know what? Now that I think about it, you know what? I wish it was you that was holding the leash, but you know what? Maybe it was me. Oh, that, like, the more you can reminisce, the more you can be inspired to.
Well, and even enjoy those moments again from a whole nother place. Because when they're actually happening, you're worried, you're running after the dog, you're scared. But then looking back on it years later, you're like, wow, and laughing, or, thinking like, wow, I was so worried and I shouldn't have been, or whatever.
And if I stay on the dog story real quick, this is a personal story. And again, this is my perspective of how I remember it. I remember when I had to let go of my dog when I was 9. And of course, I felt like I had to abandon the dog. The dog wasn't good for me, that kind of thing.
Right.
It was very personal, and I held a grudge of, fine, I have to get rid of my dog. I will hate dogs for the rest of my life. I understand that now. But I will hold a grudge because, this is my dog. I named him. I took care of him. I babied him. I had him for, 3 months. when in reality, when I got older, I understood why. I did not know the dog was really being very mischievous in, clothes and shoes and carpet and, couch and pillows.
And now you realize.
And I'm like, well, yeah.
I would have done the same thing.
So just reminiscing.
Right.
Is kind of good for the truth of a matter.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it starts out as, here's how I see it.
Right. And here's how it went. Here's the whole story.
And it's here's how I get it. And then somewhere you can come into the center. So the 26th is a really good day to do some of that, which is as the day before where love is deepened. We are making connections.
Right. And they could be challenging, but definitely worth it.
Yeah.
So let's move on to talisman times. You have finished up 3 of the talismans. The first, Monday, December 13th, to gain the finances needed.
I arrive at the forefront of all things, confident and financially able to move forward on the issues important to me. I am able and willing. This one sold. This was I don't think it was a pre-sale, but it was sold right away.
Right.
This was the moon making a really nice, a nice aspect to Venus coming up over the horizon, but it was ruled by Saturn in Aquarius. This was just having really something that was kind of fortified instability around money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm excited. In our house, we're going to talk more about this Venus retrograde, Venus cycle a little bit, and I want to learn more. So Wednesday, December 15th, to attract abundance to me.
I magnetize to me what I desire. I own the self-discipline and self-worth to make this happen. These gifts I deserve and accept with gratitude and graciousness. This one did sell pre-sale, and this person who purchased it was on board with the meditation,
nice,
and the timing, and she did get to pick the size bead, the style, small bead, large bead. This also was just a couple days after this, where the moon was in her exaltation of Taurus, making a really nice aspect to both Jupiter and Venus.
Mm-hmm.
And Venus being the ruler of the second house, this holds that attraction to abundance.
Yeah. And shout out to those 2 new talisman owners. So Friday, December 17th, to engage and agree with authority figures.
I see you on an equal playing field. We admit we are each human and have concerns around this one subject. We have the same opinion and we work toward it in unison. Mm-hmm. We are linked up.
Yes. And
this is available. I made it in a small bead and it's black and white because I was going after Saturn here. Mars was sitting on the midheaven with the South Node, which weakened the Saturn position in this day chart. So we were able to use Mars being in the 10th house and being able to approach an authority figure or a superior or a boss or a someone that's superior, or somebody's in charge, we could say the king, or the man in charge, or the woman in charge, although this is Mars, that this Mars is able to look upon this as equal. Mm-hmm. So really nice one for anyone that is looking to have a working plan, working project with your superior, because you're working equally. You're on the same playing field. Yes. I like this one a lot.
Right. And I mean, I think that, those authority figures, you can always find at least something to agree on. And that in the affirmation is that we agree we're both not perfect. We're both humans. We have this, desire to be greater, but in reality, like, we can do whatever we can.
Besides, I wouldn't go to you with this what I consider a common purpose if I didn't know that we weren't working on some sort of same teamwork.
Yeah, similar path. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And don't forget the talisman of the month. This is one of the last weeks to to get it, to expand and radiate my higher mind. That is online, ready for you for $222. That's $22 off with a $5 shipping credit. On the horizon, for the entire month of December, Orbit necklaces are 20% off. They are a really wonderful gift for the holidays, for the new year. I highly recommend you clicking that link and checking them out. There is one that you will find. Also, we recorded our holiday trunk show that is available for viewing now for free. Sandy goes over her favorite talismans, some that start at $35, the bracelets that we have, the Celestial line, as well as the big talismans, the $244. We also just finished our Benefics on the Move astrology webinar that is ready for purchase and download immediately. Our 2022 astrology forecast was just this past week. That is already in the can, recorded. It is 2 hours long. So if you don't want to view that whole 2 hours, which you could chop it up, I think it's a really wonderful webinar that you and Susan did. But if you don't have time for that, head over to our website and grab the cheat sheet. That has all of the dates, all of the necessary information that you need for January. We did just create a brand new option for everyone because we noticed that everyone had to go back to the website, purchase every single month for the monthly cheat sheets. Now you can purchase the entire full year all in one fell swoop. You save 10%, and once we have it uploaded and ready for download and printing, we email it directly to you and remind you just to click that button and download immediately. You don't have to check out. You don't have to do any of those other things. Yes,
too
it's
much
a relief.
Clickety click.
Yes, it was a lot of clickety click. So, yes, we would love for you to check out the 2022 astrology forecast with Sandy and Susan, and also jump on and get your full year of cheat sheets. Then January 15th, we are getting ready for the Venus Rising Talisman ceremony. If you have not heard about it, it is going to be one of the talisman ceremonies this year that is all about Venus. These talismans are going to be earrings so that when you view yourself in the mirror, you see that reflective self. You see that beauty. You see that hand mirror of the Venus symbol. And notice the beauty. Notice that moment. Notice the values and the worth that you have. There will be so much information to be provided, and you also get completely personalized reports. So, yes, really great an event.
It's the first talisman webinar that we're hosting this 2022. And Venus hasn't been retrograde since June of 2020. So this is when she's retrograde again. She's in a completely different area of the chart and of the sky. So, which she'll find 5 locations in an 8-year period. In your individual chart, I will go get every single one of these areas every 19 months. So for those who did start with me in June of when it was in Gemini, that was one point. This one will be at 18 degrees of Capricorn. This is another point. Then there are 3 more over the next 7.5 years. So follow this path because it will bring up different situations in your life. It will hit different personal planets, hit different sensitive points in your chart, and it'll be going through maybe 1 or 2 different houses. I give you the dates. I give you the things to work on, the things to watch for, and what she's asking you to do. Yeah. And you will actually be able to see this in your life. Yeah. You know, I've had a river of charts. I'm going to take this picture.
Yeah.
I'm going to, and maybe you'll take it. You'll take this river and I'll be at the very end laying down like, talking to 15 clients in the last 4 days. Well, if we had constellation people in, that's another group, that on where this Venus is going in your chart, what it's hitting, and giving you some ideas of what Venus is asking you to let go of, or to, which will be different. It'll be different from where she was in Gemini.
Mm-hmm.
So in the next time she goes retrograde in 2023, it'll be different then too. So these are not a one and done like some of the things that I've done. You continue to follow this Venus, her path of the 5-pointed star.
Right. So we will be giving you much more information as we get closer to that January 15th. However, if you wanted to sign up, the link is ready for you.
What?
So click that link and you can be one of the first to sign up. All right. So moving on to our house, we wanted to discuss this Venus retrograde and the story of Inanna. So
let's start.
Where do you want to start? Yeah.
Yeah. I want to start. There's, my mythology is, I prefer Greek mythology. That's really what I've studied in school and taken courses on. However, and I could use Persephone and her mother Demeter, and Hades,
mm-hmm.
where he pulls her down to the underworld,
right.
and her mother misses her, and
that's how we get the seasons.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I could tell that story. However, the Sumerian myth of Inanna, queen of the heavens, queen of lust and queen of war, and her estranged sister Ereshkigal have way more meaning to the retrograde Venus, in my opinion, that I want to discuss right now.
Cool. So
I'll talk about it briefly, because this is one of the things that we will talk about during the webinar.
Okay.
This Talisman webinar that we're having. That
perfect. So this will be a little peek into
that
it.
one we're having January 15th. I think it's at 11:02 a.m. Unless I tweak
11:20 a.m. That's what I have
11:20
listed. Yeah.
Okay, I had the 2 and the 0. Unless I tweak it a little bit, because I've been tweaking it. Maybe it was 11:02 at one point. I decided that election time should be more 11:20. Okay, a.m. So at least it's not in the middle of the night.
Right. So
okay.
Where do you want to start? You want to start with the story of Inanna?
Yeah, let's start there, and then I want to read something from the Care of the Soul.
Okay.
book. So Inanna, as I mentioned, queen of the heaven, is estranged from her sister Ereshkigal, who is queen of the dead, queen of the underworld.
Mm-hmm.
So they rule 2 different planes, 2 different realms.
Mm-hmm.
So the queen of the underworld husband dies, and they're about to have they're preparing his burial rites. And if we know in mythology, or in really the Egyptian Mesopotamian era,
mm-hmm.
that to be the burial rites were quite the procession, and
right, quite the ceremony.
The ceremony, and helping guide the soul to the next world. And so Inanna wants to be there for her estranged sister's husband's,
her brother-in-law, basically,
burial rites. So she is now preparing for the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And her sister down there in the underworld gets word, and she has her court lock all the doors, lock all the 7 gates.
Okay.
And should her sister really, really want to come down and be a part of this, every gate she must remove something from her body. And so at each gate, there's a very, very long poem. I won't share it here, and I don't think I'll have time to share it with you in the webinar. But every gate, there's a judge, and she must take something off. And the first thing she takes off is the crown, then her scepter, and then the gold bangles and everything that she has claimed to be what she is worth.
Right.
And she gets to the very bottom and she lies naked at her sister's feet, very naked and very lowly.
Mm-hmm.
And she dies.
Oh, wow.
And because she is not who she thinks she is. She has been stripped of everything,
all those titles,
those
all of
things
those
she thought were important to her. And so I don't know why they did this, but they hung people on hooks in the underworld. And
ouch, but sounds about right. Okay.
And meanwhile, Inanna had given a heads up to her court in the upper world and said, if I don't return in 3 days, come for me, send the entities for me.
Okay.
So all the gates were opened, and so the entities came down and found her dead, and they begged Ereshkigal, please let us have Queen Inanna. We will take her body off your hands. And she says, yes, get rid of her. And so as they're pulling her up from the underworld, and as she's rising, she comes back to life.
Oh, wow. I got a little chilled. Okay.
And this is the path and the journey where we must reach and attain wholeness by stripping things that we thought are ours.
And are a part of our image.
And whether we have gained them, or, this is the respect, or is this also something about someone calling you a bad word, a bad name, and you need to strip that off as well. Right?
Yeah, those
the
negative,
guilt, the
right.
blame, the shame, this whole thing. We have to get down to our purity of our original authentic self, of where we started from raw material. Right. And it can get gooey, ishy, ooey, and scary.
That is definitely something of, answering the question of who am I? Because really, some people will even, well, are you done with the story yet? Sorry, I don't want to give my
this
2 cents in here yet.
vulnerability that, cracks open and creates where, I may want to hide. I might want to put more clothes on and hide up my heart and hide up my love. And, I was hurt that time, and I'm never going to open up my heart again. Where, no, open up again.
Right.
Because
that's
pass.
who we are. Yeah.
Let that go. Let that waste. Let that thing. And so when Venus literally in the sky goes to the underworld, and she's descending right now, she will be missing out of the sky around January 1st. So everybody check up, look up. The sun goes down. She is a sparkly, looks like a big jet coming right at you. It's a diamond in the sky, sparkly. Look at her, and she'll be going further and further down to where she is now moving with the sun. And she is in the heart of the sun, which is the Kazemi, where she burns off.
And so this is
like
kind
a
of like her.
crematorium.
Yeah. So this is now her moving from that, one place down into the underworld, right?
She's an evening star right now. She goes and she crosses. Sun never goes retrograde. Sun's moving forward. Venus crosses retrograde. They cross right there, and that happens to be January 8th.
Okay.
This is the day we'll all be on the plane coming home from the retreat. Interesting, will be up there in the sky while she is being burned off.
Right.
And then she starts her morning rise, and by the 15th of January, which is why I'm holding the heliacal, meaning sun, she's heliacally rising ahead of the sun, and she's in the morning sky. She has left the yin position of the evening, and she turns into the yang position of the morning, and she's ahead of the sun, head of the king, head of the sun. So you'll be able to see her right around the 15th, which she's moved far enough degrees away to be her own self. She is not caught in the rays of the sun. She is now seen. Yep. And what is she? She is able to what? She doesn't pick a fight. We know that she is the queen of heaven, lust and war, but she is able to stand for her right. Right? This is this powerful Venus. And we each in our own charts have either one of two. She hits 2 cycles, the evening cycle or the morning cycle. Right? And it's always the retrograde period where she starts in her evening and ends up in the morning. Still retrograde. Right. So when we do our ceremony, she will still be retrograde, still performing these vulnerability places, but knowing now who she is.
Right. And going through the gates.
Well, she'll already have gone through the gate. She's coming back up. Remember the entities.
She's ascending. Yeah.
She's ascending into life again.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the period that I want to choose to do the talisman ceremony. Because I'll be on a plane when she's in the Kazemi. And I think I will prefer this period, I think, where she's rising. We get to claim who we are in our intention and in our affirmation.
Love it. I'm so excited for that. So I wanted to just chat too, is that a lot of people, create an image with the things that they have around them, whether it's a home, a job, being a mother, whether or not you work out, what you wear, those types of things, we really truly believe that they define us. When in reality, if you strip those things away, and they can be easily stripped away, as we know, what remains? And so I think that that's a really awesome question that this myth poses, is if everything was stripped from you, everything, think of it like a big fire, and you're just the only one standing in the middle of that house, the ruins of the house. Who is that person?
I mean, think about all of these people that have lost everything in these tornadoes or these fires that have been just sweeping across our nation. And looking at, I had a conversation with my mom, Cincinnati, really close to Mayfield, Kentucky, and saying, she got very emotional, and she's like, we're sending things down there as fast as we can. And she's like, Sandy, they don't even have a purse. I found it really interesting that my mom chose a purse. Like, they don't have a purse. They don't have a phone. They don't have a toothbrush. They don't have a hair comb. She was naming these personal things that had to do with Venus.
Oh.
Right?
I didn't even
realize that she was doing that, but that was her connotation of, as a woman, my, female mother woman, was going through the things that would define femininity, right? Like the phone being in connection, right? Venus needs connections. She rules copper.
Right. And the hairbrush,
the hairbrush about finding, lipstick.
Self-care, beauty.
She mentioned lipstick.
So interesting. Yeah, that's so interesting.
So to just tune in to things around and understand that vulnerability, like you can get away with no hairbrush, no phone. First of all, phones were never a thing. Without a purse to carry all your belongings, that everything you would need would be right in your purse, right?
Right. And I carry a backpack around. I don't know what that means, but maybe more my morning star. But yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, go ahead and read.
I want to read the book that we're going to be reading in portions of the retreat, which is Care of the Soul in Everyday Life by Thomas More. It was written
what's
in the
this
80s.
passage about?
It's Love Shadows.
Okay.
It's just a paragraph. It relates to this Venus retrograde. Unless we deal with the shadows of love, our experience of it will be incomplete. A sentimental philosophy of love, embracing only the romantic and the positive, fails at the first sign of shadow. Thoughts of separation, the loss of faith and hope in a relationship, or unexpected changes in the partner's values. Such a partial view also presents impossible ideals and expectations. If love can't match these ideals, it is destroyed for being inadequate. I like to keep in mind that in the heritage of our literature and in art, love is portrayed as a child, often with eyes blindfolded or as an unruly adolescent. By nature, love feels inadequate, but this inadequacy rounds out the wide range of love's emotions. Love finds its soul in its feelings of incompleteness, impossibility, and imperfection.
Right. Because that's the only part of it that it can really heal. You know, it's like love can heal those places and heal those spaces to go to the other side of that coin.
And you have to, if you want true, raw love.
Right.
I'm reminded of Austin Coppock always says, and he said it again just recently, that he said if a couple should be good for one another and really find what they call true love, let them go through a Venus retrograde together. And if they could come out of the shadow period, and so folks, this shadow period is November 18th, shadow period, all the way through March 3rd. So if a love relationship can go through the entirety, so if you meet somebody in the middle, say January 20th, doesn't really count. You're going to have to wait for the next one to get through to maybe do that really complete commitment that you guys can work together. But when Austin said this, it was like, wow, for a couple to find their way through the dark in their each incompleteness, their each impossibility. Well, he didn't say this part, but I'm adding it. And their each imperfection, and still see the person as who they think they love, or that image of what they originally saw on first glance, then they can have a better, stronger, raw love connection. So, okay.
And I was waiting for you to finish so I could add my 2 cents to that. But I mean, it is so true that love isn't always going to be those positive fairy tale moments.
Yeah, the candlelight, sipping wine, cheering moments.
And that's and if someone believes that is only what it is, it will fail 100%, because that's not what it is. You know, if you believe that someone is something and you put all of, you know, your trust in that, they will disappoint you, you know? So love is kind of like that. Love has its own human tendencies because it's that connection between humans. And when you can use it as a overarching connection to whatever's going on, that's where I think it is the most powerful tool in the world. You know, to love those warts, to love those, you know, not just love the flower, but also love the nutrients and the density of the soil. You know, because those flowers will never bloom if there is no nutrients in that decomposing soil. So yeah, I think it's like you can't just pick and choose. It's all or nothing.
The Venus is represented by the 5-petaled rose, right? And you know, you can't have a rose without thorns. True.
Absolutely. So I think which is
the pattern of the earrings, is a red rose.
Yes. So I think that's all for this episode. I think we have given you a lot of food for thought. Of course, we love discussing these types of topics, but keep sending that feedback, those emails to me, alex@intentionbeads.com. Head over to iTunes or wherever you listen to our podcast and try and give us a review. If you are having any trouble finding that, of course, email me. I'll help you out. And happy holidays, everyone. We are so excited to, you know, keep this podcast rolling.
And please email Alex with your Venus retrograde stories. let's really mix the pot here. And, we don't say your name fully and if you want to say anonymous, we'll read that too. Start becoming vulnerable by having us read something that you have written about something that you're finding out about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be really helpful because one person's story can help another person's story.
Right.
So let's get these in. Get
Yes.
these in. I'm challenging us all the way through March.
Okay. So send in those Venus retrograde stories.
Yeah.
They will be they'll be shared here on the podcast.
I also want to give a little hint. Go back to 8 years ago. This is where Venus will have been not exactly, but around 2 degrees away from this 26 degrees of Capricorn. It was probably around 27, 28 Capricorn. So 8 years ago, go back to December of 2013 and January of 2014 and reflect on, and if you don't know, go into your journals, go into your calendars, go into your pictures, go into any of your emails that you can decide, it seems like it's a long time ago, what was occurring, and find a familiar theme that will be showing itself again. And now you're 8 years older to look at that and to develop that is waste, and that needs to be one of the things that you strip off and not put back on, and see what was occurring at that time, and see if there was a mistake that you made or a win that you had, because these are the similar, and then make the decision when you can look back at that.
Yeah, those cycles.
And I've heard multiple handfuls of stories on clients that I had this week.
Okay, so that is a wrap on our episode this week. We will see you all next week. Have a wonderful holiday, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
And so you finally know you control